Trump, Israel, and South Park all in the headlines this week on
The New England Take.
Listen to the New England Take on WKXL, Granite Grok, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. This is the last episode where it's only online. I'm excited to next week on August 2nd to begin to broadcast on WKXL again after almost 2 years of no longer being on their airwaves. Just nothing of them, is I needed a break from doing the regular broadcast over there, and I'm excited to be back on the airwaves in Concord and Manchester. So be sure to check out nhtalkradio.com. It's going to be Saturdays beginning August 2nd to 8:30 a.m. Please be sure to check that out. But so many things going on in the headlines this week, as always, but we're going to start off on a subject that I have yet to really talk about for really since October 7th, when the whole Israel situation really kicked off. But it's hard at a certain point to really stay away from making a comment on the situation over there, especially over to this past week with the destruction of I believe it's the only, or like the most important Catholic church in Gaza by Israeli forces. And obviously there's been a whole lot of debate whether, was it done on purpose? Was it not done on purpose? Was it just they're just bombing everything over there? And now we are left with Michael Knowles on the Daily Wire. You really can't ignore the Daily Wire when it comes to the whole Israel situation. There's no way around it. I've been a long time Ben Shapiro listener. I've listened to him 5 days a week, and I appreciate his kind of unique, snarky take when it comes to a lot of political matters. But when I've been saying for years, when it comes to Israel, I don't trust anything he has to say on it, because he has such a very dedicated belief that basically Israel can do no wrong. He says over and over again, well, of course the government in Israel can make mistakes. Of course there's issues sometimes with what they do. But when it comes to the whole everything going on in Israel since October 7th with Benjamin Netanyahu and everything when it comes to their whole military operations in Gaza, he is the ultimate apologist for it. And there's no way around it. If you can look past that, fine. I'm not one of those people to really say you're dumb or wrong for listening to a certain outlet. I've been continuing to listen to him until this past week. This past week I've kind of hit the I've had enough button. And I have had the same problem with other personalities on Daily Wire. I was a long time a listener of some of the other people over there, and when it comes to abortion, it just gets repetitive, and it's frustrating, because I want to have people with a different, sometimes heterodox, sometimes just understanding where the other side's coming from, opinion. And with the whole Israel situation, Ben Shapiro's been unbelievably one-sided, and when it comes to the Epstein situation, he's unbelievably one-sided, and doing the whole thing that he has called out so many of the Biden supporters for, where, hey, my buddy's over there running some government agency, so of course I'm going to believe what they got to say. And that's really not the MAGA mentality, in my opinion, or it's not the reason why many people voted for Trump mentality. It was very much that drain the swamp, we need a do-over, we need to doge everything, and here we are in this whole ongoing, almost escalating in recent months situation in Israel and Gaza, and we're just saying, hey, they think what's happening there is fine, so we're going to side with it. Cash and all of them, and Pam Bondi and Donald Trump are saying everything's fine with Epstein. We got to trust them. They're the ones there, even though they've totally botched the whole situation when it comes to Epstein. And honestly, as someone who voted for Trump in the previous election, as someone who is very Trump skeptical and was not a fan of voting for him from the get-go, I was really expecting, since recording this on July 24th, either Israel or Ukraine would be done. These conflicts would be finished, and we'd be able to move on with their lives. He would get a Nobel Prize or two, and we could move on with our lives. But here we are, almost the end of July. It's 7 months now since he was inaugurated, and these conflicts are ongoing, if not escalating, when it comes to the Israel situation. And this bombing of the Catholic Church in Gaza, Michael Knowles had a lot of people called him out saying, why didn't you jump out sooner than this? Why did it take a Catholic church before you really step up and say, hey, I don't think things are going okay in this Israel Gaza war? He's wrong for that, in my opinion. People have their own belief systems, their thresholds for when things hit catastrophic, and unfortunately, this is how it goes in the real world. When something actually hits a close-to-home situation, that's when they're going to actually step out and start saying things. Not everyone lives online 24/7. Not everyone is obsessive over certain world conflicts to the point where they're going to have like a strong opinion on it, as opposed to, especially in the media, when it comes to just covering what's going on. Quite often here on the show, I'm just covering. I'm telling you what's going on. I'm giving you a bit of both sides of why each side is coming to their conclusion, and this is one of the situations where this is a centuries old situation when it comes to Palestine, Israel, Israel being the homeland for the Jews. The situation when it comes to the evangelicals politically has been an ongoing topic that we've talked about. We talked about Ted Cruz, and he's outright said he's Israel is a tremendous reason why he is in D.C. That is a big factor for him. And as a northern New England Protestant, it's not something I care about. And it's very much the same thing with the Catholics. Catholics kind of have this weird, like, yeah, they care about what's going on with Israel politically. It's the one kind of Western nation, or Western when it comes to the makeup of their government and allowing of secular sort of government operations, things of that nature. Israel is the one. There isn't really another out there. So generally speaking, when the United States needs to have a partner out there, it's going to be Saudi Arabia, because we have a multi-decade relationship with them, and Israel, because we've been there from, essentially the beginning, and it's been many decades where we've been pretty involved with them. They have a very strong economy when it comes to a lot of technology that we need here. Intel, for example, has a lot of base of operations out there. So it's kind of funny when you're looking at where the headquarters of many tech and academic technology agencies, where they're based out of. Many of them are based out of Israel. And when there is the economic backbone there, in addition to just the makeup of this is a democracy instead of an Islamic fundamentalist nation, that's going to be big. We're more likely to jump in. It's the same thing when it comes to, it's the reason why I've been kind of supportive in Ukraine when it comes to the rare minerals deals, because when there are those sort of relationships, the United States government and military is going to be involved in very friendly ways, and in theory can lead to more peaceful situations in regions of the world where otherwise there may not be such things. But when you have a situation since October 7th where there's repeated bombing and straight up just destroying northern Gaza, now they're beginning to bomb more in central Gaza that was allegedly a green zone, and now the Catholic Church in that part of the world destroyed. You're going to see the likes of Michael Knowles, who's a hardcore Catholic. I haven't heard it yet from Matt Walsh, but I would imagine Matt Walsh is going to be a very similar sort of situation when it comes to it. Many of the others at the Daily Wire, other than Ben Shapiro, are Protestants, so it's a little different with how they approach the situation. They're a lot more on board theologically when it comes to the Israel government as a whole. But you got a couple hardcore Catholics over there that are not going to be on board with this, and they're outright saying, like, why are we supporting this? Why are we supporting what so many are calling a genocide? You're seeing the starvation of so many people over there, and this is something, it's been hard for me to really come to a conclusion where I really want to jump in and say anything from a pop culture perspective. With the nature of my show, when it comes to a lot of media analysis, the fact Michael Knowles is jumping in, I really feel like there's a parallel where I got to kind of say some things when it comes to this situation, because I feel like that's a really important milestone. If you're seeing one of the key faces of the new conservative media operation begin to say there's an issue here and calling out the same things that many progressives have been saying for more than a year now when it comes to it, that's huge. Personally, for me, this is totally my opinion when it comes to it, but yeah, this should have been done a long time ago. There's no way around it. The Israel Gaza War has not been handled correctly. I said this very early on when the operations began. When it did begin, I did frame it around the failures of the Biden presidency when it comes to foreign relations. I still stand by what I've said on that. But at a certain point, yeah, figure out what the hell you're doing and really set a standard that where are we going with this situation? I said this more than a year ago that I feel like there is not a real solid direction that they're taking here except for torturing of this territory, where now it's gone to the point where if you follow drop site news, if I had to unfollow them on X. I feel honestly remorseful for doing that, but it's just too brutal to see the nonstop starvation and bombings and attacks and all the bloodshed that's happening there. They have some very brutal footage from there with people on the ground, either civilian. It's really hard with some of it because you don't know how much of it might be kind of set up for a certain narrative, but it doesn't matter. There's enough of it there where you gotta stand up and say, this is screwed up and we are involved with this, and we gotta figure out if we're gonna continue to be involved with it or whether we should force a ceasefire to happen. And many people on the right are going, let them do what they're going to do. Like, why are you so concerned? They've been attacked and they're responding. The issue is it's our weapons. We are either directly giving them weapons to make these operations happen, directly being involved with portions of it. For example, the bombing of Iran, which is directly part of this whole operation, or we're just giving them our weapons that could very likely be useful in the Ukraine situation, a matter of our national security, things of that nature. These are very limited weapons when it comes to a lot of the high-tech things that are being put into the military space. These are things that cost millions, if not billions of dollars, take years to replace, and we're just dumping them into the situation, allowing Israel to, maybe not some of the bombs that are being used in some of the strategic bombings that are happening in Gaza, but we're enabling it. We're enabling them to have protection by having some of the high-tech weapons, so Iran can't attack them, so they're able to use their more traditional weapons against Gaza. At a certain point, we got to figure out here whether it is possible to destroy Hamas. Like, I think Jocko Willink very early on in this even brought up that he didn't understand what exactly was going on, because if you're going to do a counterinsurgency, you got to have boots on the ground. You can't just be carpet bombing. These are people that are underground. They got caves. They got all sorts of shelters across this territory where they're able to go wherever they want to go. And instead of putting boots on the ground and doing strategic missions to actually save these hostages that are allegedly the reason why we're allowing this to continue, if you're not doing that, you're screwing the pooch big time here, and it's indefensible. You talk about what's going also with the food. We talk about your Ben Shapiro's once again, or talking about over and over again that Israel's given so much food. Well, is the food actually getting to anyone? And they say, well, Hamas is there staging attacks. There's more than enough evidence out there that the Israeli IDF is out there shooting around when these things are going on to direct people to go certain directions, which is screwed up beyond belief, or outright shooting at people assuming they're Hamas. But you can't do that when that's the wrong phrasing on it, but they keep saying that basically any military age male is Hamas, and they're even saying younger teenager males are Hamas. Like, if every single male is Hamas that's over the age of 10, what are you doing? At what point do we figure out that this is they're looking to destroy what's going on there? yeah, once again, I feel like genocide is definitely a common word, and maybe we're getting to that point. I have a hard time saying that. I've said repeatedly, I even said it on WDEV when I called in a couple weeks ago on this. I definitely feel like it's ethnic cleansing. They want to clear out the Palestinian population there, hoping that some of the neighbors will take it. Maybe that's kind of the point when it comes to some of the driving the population south and some of the starvation techniques, is they're hoping that Egypt or someone else will take over. But one of the countries they're talking about wanting to have people take it is like Syria and Lebanon. They're not going to do that with everything that Israel's done to those borders the last year and a half. There's no motivation to do it. Everyone in the field has had enough of this. I don't care if you're left or right. Only the most hawkish are willing to continue to have this go on. I'm sure John Bolton is happy as could be. I've said for a long time that Ben Shapiro is very much a war hawk, even though he says he isn't. Here's your poster child for hawkish behavior when it comes to foreign relations. This is bad, and in my opinion, we need out of Israel. We need to stop funding it. We need to move on. You can call me some lefty sympathizer of Hamas. I really don't care. This is bad. There's too many bodies, and it's time to move on. Now for the hardest transition in media. Talk about South Park. So, I believe it was released on Wednesday, July 23rd. Day before I'm recording this. This may go out on Friday on the 25th, but it doesn't really matter. But they had a fantastic episode. South Park is a show I haven't really watched much in recent years. Not out of not enjoying it or anything. It's just they've been on this is the season 27 premiere, and they're still chugging along. Good for them. Matt and Trey are fantastic when it comes to politics. Those two guys I love. They're very libertarian. They're all about make fun of everybody. The government as a whole is corrupt and has many issues, and it was hilarious. I saw this actually on, let me pull it up. It was Matt Taibbi? No, it was Jesse Single actually posted it on X. Trey Parker and Matt Stone are generational comedy legends, but nothing they've done or ever will do will compare them to baiting the White House into issuing a response to their cartoon depictions of the president having a small male part. I'm on YouTube, I'm not on X, so I'm going to say that. Once again, happy this is the week before I start going on broadcast radio again. But going over to Deadline, posted an article on it. Trump seething over South Park mockery on eve of Skydance Paramount deal closure. White House lashes out at desperate season 27 premiere. There's nothing desperate about it. It is very much a South Park brutal hit, and it's hilarious. If you have a Paramount subscription, go check out the episode, in my opinion, if you're into really dark, screwed up humor. Before we get to the Donald Trump part, Cartman ends up very just depressed and ultimately suicidal because NPR is canceled because he listens to it for the fact it's hilarious to hear the woke cry every day on broadcast radio. It's hilarious, and Butters, which is one of my favorite characters on the show, gets dragged into Cartman's suicide pact against his will, which is hilarious, and they tried to off themselves with an electric car, which doesn't work well. It's South Park. But going over to the Donald Trump commentary, exclusive from Deadline. The White House went on the offensive Thursday morning as an irate Donald Trump fused over last night's South Park season 27 premiere that depicted him as a Satan canoodling and less than well-endowed pompous bully, to put it mildly. Quote, the president is seething over childish attack by South Park, end quote. An administration source tells Deadline that morning. However, as annoyed as POTUS is over Trey Parker and Matt Stone's cartoon depiction of him as a shamelessly unclothed emperor and a mocking AI-generated PSA during the episode titled Sermon on the Mount that depicted the MAGA chief naked in the desert, the White House was not blindsided by the satire. And that AI-generated ending is priceless. It's priceless. It's what everything we hope AI satire could possibly ever be, with Donald Trump going through the desert, stripping naked, and then his genitals talk to him in a heat stroke induced vision. Yeah. It's screwed up and hilarious. And if you saw the South Park movie from, I don't even want to know how long ago. I'm 38. It's going to make me feel really old. It was probably 20 years ago when the South Park movie came out. They narrated Saddam Hussein as this not quite Canadian where the face moves, but they use multiple images but do the I don't know how to describe this for audio, but like the mouth and jaw hinge on themselves and talk like Canadians in the South Park world. It's hilarious. But they do the same sort of bit that they do with Saddam Hussein, like, calm down, buddy. Just calm down, buddy. There's nothing to worry about here. Calm down, buddy, over and over again. And it's priceless. And yeah, he's literally in bed with Satan. I guess if you're a MAGA supporter, you probably don't like the show anymore. And you don't like this show anymore here in the New England Take, but there's no sacred cows, in my opinion. The South Park episode's funny. It goes back to form when it comes to how they would make fun of the topic of the day and the quick turnaround. I'm kind of impressed by their animation, actually. As watching it, I'm like, wait a second, are they like having gradients and shadows and all these things? It's crazy how they move from just construction paper animation into what they're doing now. But I may check out some of the back episodes of it, and this kind of all goes into the whole situation I talked about last week when it comes to Stephen Colbert's Late Show being canceled, and the show as a whole being canceled, more than just Stephen Colbert on the program. And that's kind of what ultimately they're making fun of, is there is an issue. I mean, say what I said my opinion on it last week. Colbert should be canceled. He's running a $40 million deficit when it comes to the program. It does not make sense for the show to continue to be on the air. But when it comes to how it got to this point where CBS is honestly having to make these sort of decisions where they're going to cut shows, a lot of it comes down to lawsuits. When it came to the 60 Minutes lawsuit, which was also made fun of in the South Park episode where the 60 Minutes was a bomb, it's because of this. The more the media are pushed, the harder the case you're going to have when it comes to defunding NPR or calling out the alleged fake news and things of that nature. I am all on board with National Public Radio and PBS getting federal funds removed. I think there's an unbelievable partisan push when it comes to it, and I believe the ecosystem of 2025 gives plenty of other ways of monetizing media, where you should be able to find some way to monetize or fund or use advertisings with like partner advertising agreements like YouTube has, or hell, maybe Rumble will open the doors if you decide to really give them a good product. I mean, maybe not. I mean, they're a little crazy over there, but there's lots of opportunities out there. I don't think you need the federal funding, but when this is kind of the issue of the fake news, when everything becomes fake news, when everything becomes a Russian bot, how do we know what's what anymore? And we're kind of hitting, I think, a critical mass when it comes to it. I think the lawsuits with this, on one hand, when it comes to the Kamala Harris interview with 60 Minutes, I understand the editing. It is what it is. Yeah, it's obvious they were fanboying over her when it came to the program, and that's the reason why they cut it the way they did. But when it comes to whether it involves a lawsuit, I don't really think it hit that threshold. Talking about the advertisement, they were able to eventually peer pressure CBS into releasing more of the footage from the interview. I can't remember if it was exactly the raw footage, but they did release more of it, so you did see that context and how that she did really fumble the ball when it came to that question she was asked. I want to say it was about Israel, but it could be wrong. It's been a while now. And is that worth a libel lawsuit or whatever? It wasn't a libel lawsuit. It doesn't really matter. But is it really worth a lawsuit from the presidential administration? I really don't think so. I don't think it's worthy of all the FCC complaints that were lobbied to happen from it either. It's slimy, but what isn't in modern media? I think everyone does. I really don't care. If you're a journalist, you're coming from it from your own ecosystem in your head and what you think is important. When you look at the left-wing media, they're going to be the ones that actually cover the environment and things of that nature. When you look at the right-wing media, they're more likely to cover economics and business in a more honest perspective. But also, those two sides of the scale here will cover them in very pointed ways that push people to think a certain way. And you got to be really careful when you hit that threshold that is it worth really introducing libel or Federal Trade Commission issues or the FCC, things of that nature. As someone who's very libertarian right, I want less of these federal agencies to really have any teeth. But when you're one of the people who shares my sort of political values and you're pushing for the FCC to attack broadcast networks for things of that nature, I begin to have a real problem. I think it begins to overstep a bit. It doesn't mean I'm on board with the way they did it. It doesn't mean they did it correctly or ethically or anything of that nature, but the broadcast stations are already losing their audience left and right. You look at the failures of the Colbert Late Show, it's obvious that people have had enough of it. They're wanting to move on and see what else is out there. Go to the YouTube. I've talked about even this show today about there are all these other outlets online, whether it's going to broadcast radio, whether it's other stations, cable news. Newsmax didn't exist a decade ago. They're new. OAN. I'm not a fan of either of those shows, but there is this MAGA right broadcast and online empire when it comes to so many. You talk about Charlie Kirk and everything he's done with Young Americans for Liberty. That may or may not be his organization. Sorry, I'm hitting the end of the segment. I'm beginning to crash out on some names of these political groups. But at a certain point, you got to just let the numbers fail and not just take away subsidies from the feds that allow organizations to stay afloat when they shouldn't. Let the free market do its job. And part of letting the free market do its job is let government step away and let failures fail and let new outlets begin to take over, or old outlets that are maybe seeing a resurgence begin to jump back up again. It's kind of interesting to see podcasting, what's become of it, because so much of it was previously radio, and now a lot of it's a mix. You see stories, you see daily news, you see random idiots like me jumping online, being able to express their opinion and be able to tell stories that wouldn't have been able to have a chance otherwise. And if you're using the federal government to do that, at what point are you as bad as what our political enemy has been doing this whole time when it comes to the right? There's so many stories of it, and I'm afraid that we could be going in the wrong direction if we continue to do it. Just defund. Just defund. Let NPR and PBS and all these outlets figure out their new world, because it's not the 60s anymore, and we need to make that step into the next generation. All right, NewEnglandTake.com. Please be sure to check out my Substack over there. All episodes will be posted there. You'll get it via email if that's the best way for you to do it. If you prefer to get us on your YouTube feed, that is the primary place I post all videos. And big thank you, as always, to thegranitegrok.com. They post our episodes every Saturday over there. And beginning August 2nd, 8:30 a.m., starting every Saturday ongoing, we will be on WKXL, NHTalkRadio.com. If you have a radio outlet that maybe wants to pick us up, or you get a tip, you want to be on the show, anything like that, AJ at NewEnglandTake.com. Next week we will be having Dexter Tarbox back on the show. I think we're going to talk about ICE. I think we got to talk about ICE. I need someone to bounce those ideas off of, and he definitely has opinions of his own that I would love to chat about, because it'd be interesting to see how much we agree or disagree on. And a week after that, Jody Underwood of EdOpt will be on the show to talk about education choice. Should be very interesting. I had her husband Ian Underwood on the show a few weeks ago, and I'm excited to see what she's up to over there. All right, talk to you soon.